Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Yours truly in the building, Joe Dupree for 100 BLK, the Black Station. The road show is in full effect. I'm right outside Tallahassee, Florida, Florida A&M, Florida State. Y'all know I'm about to be in the building. Welcome to hashtag Truth Be Told. Seems to be now. There she go. There she go. I knew she had to go get something. It's the life strategist, the art therapist, the author, the speaker, Sister Jackson's in the building, and my brother from another mother. You know him from 1075 WBLS in New York City. The open line online that went down last night. It went down last night. My brother Fatim Muhammad. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing?
Good
Unmute your mics where you
morning.
can say good
Yeah,
morning.
good morning. I'm unmuted. Jax, you hold up. Normally, I let ladies speak first, but today I'm speaking after Joe. Now, let me just say this. I have so much respect and admiration for this young lady here. Again, congratulations to Joe for his trip and his accomplishments, rising on that ladder. And that's all I'm going to say there. But let me just say this because I know this sister doesn't do this, so I don't want to be disrespectful, but I have to acknowledge it because it's something that fortunately, it does happen. I am glad that she has breath in her body. If she did, Joe, just like Tom Joyner used to do in the back in the day, he said, if you celebrated a birthday, I would wish you happy birthday. If the day is your birthday, I would wish you happy birthday if you celebrated today. But I know that somebody doesn't celebrate their birthday, but I will acknowledge.
But what is today?
Today is somebody's name, Jackie Harrison, Sister Jackie Harrison's born day.
This is the day that she arrived. She arrived on this day.
Kicking and crying and all kind of stuff. So I just want to say, if Jackie Harrison celebrated her birthday, I would wish her happy birthday, many, many, many more happy and healthy and beautiful birthdays as she gets, like they say, when wine ages, it just gets finer and finer.
Oh. Amen.
So to my sister, I just gotta say, welcome.
No. You remember we changed Valentine's Day and we changed it. So we're gonna change this day too. Happy Arrival Day. We glad that you arrived.
There you go.
That's every day.
Happy Arrival Day.
Every day I'm on the show, I arrive. So I appreciate that, my brother. And you're right. I don't celebrate it. I don't acknowledge it. My kids don't tell it to me. I don't say it to myself. I don't halfway answer the phone on this day. I don't reply to nobody's messages, but I appreciate it. I love you. I am blessed, 48. So
48 rotations. We're going to call it Happy Rotation Day. This is the 48th rotation around the sun.
48 rotations. Yep. So
I can't wait till I get there.
I know, right? You still got a while to go though, Fatim. So
I know.
It gets better as you get older. It gets better.
Oh, sir. Never mind. I ain't gonna say that joke this morning. I ain't gonna say that. But Joe, let me just say this to Sister Jack. Let me just say this. Let me just acknowledge some people last night. Come on. Joe said it went down, and let me just say, I don't really talk much about WBLS. It's just announced, that I do the shows. But on, Sundays tend to be my biggest show online, not on the air. The on the air show is very big. But last night, the people in the New York tri-state area and across the country, because we have viewers that are on here that follow me on and my team, not just me, but my team on WBLS Open Line Facebook. Last night we went off. We had 4.6K views. 4.6K views. We are almost up to 10,000 views from last night's show. We had I just checked 9.2K views last night. And, we came on an hour late after President Biden spoke, and let Joe get into that. I'm not going into that right now. And we talked about some things, and there was a attorney that was part of, he was the chief co-counsel for the National Action Network under Reverend Al Sharpton, attorney Michael Hardy, that passed Monday. And I mentioned that, and I dedicated the show to that. We also brought one of our members that has been with the team for years, Nitha Khan, and she was excellent last night. But there's two things I want to announce real quick because it's so important, Joe and Jax, to me. because I was very passionate yesterday. I do not apologize for anything I said. I mentioned that last night on Open Line Online, that what I said on hashtag Truth Be Told yesterday morning, I said it. Don't apologize for it. I meant everything I said. Enough is enough. And folks will not wake up. They think that we can continue to go through this and go through this and go through this and go through that, and just thinking that, now you can arrest a person. Yeah, that's a step towards justice. This got to stop. But we got to continue to say her name. We said her name so many times. There was Eleanor Bumpers in New York, Mary Mitchell in New York, Sandra Bland. The list goes on and on. Now we have to say another name, Sonia Massey. Sonia, yes. And so there's going to be 2 rallies. The first rally, National Day of Mourning for Sonia Massey. There will be a rally this coming Sunday, July 28th. At 2 p.m. Eastern Time in New York City, Washington Square Park. And for everybody that should know that is in the New York tri-state area, where Washington Square Park is in the Village, it's around 14th Street in Manhattan, 2 p.m. This is growing. Then Tuesday night in Chicago at the new Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church, which is located at 4301 West Washington Boulevard, as I stated, in Chicago, Illinois. The senior pastor is Reverend Dr. Marshall E. Hatch. I spoke with him last night. Reverend Sharpton must have told him, because he said, Brother Fatin, I already got a spot for you in the church. I'm headed to Chicago. I'm purchasing my ticket right after this show. I'm headed to Chicago. I just can't talk the talk. I got to walk.
Amen.
Got to be there. I will be in Chicago, Lord willing, purchasing my ticket this morning to head into Chicago. I have to detour. I'm not going into Jacksonville now the week after. I have to stand with the family of Sonia Massey, the father, her children, and the rest of the family as we rally around them, because this is barbaric, not just horrific, barbaric for to be shot in the face. So I just had to put those 2 announcements out. I guess Reverend Sharpton to be in the house. Of course, like I said, the family, attorney Benjamin Crump, I need to text him and let him know I will be there, and a whole host of other people. Chicago and the rest of the country, find your way to some type of rally to stand up and say this sister's name. Don't forget it. We haven't even turned up the heat on this story yet, because we've been not sidetracked, but putting our energy in what's going on in the presidential election in the Democratic Party. Joe?
So Brother Fatim, I want to first give you a surprise gift, even though it's not your day of rotation around the sun. But listen, all your frat brothers from the mighty St. John Grand Lodge in Chicago, and the Mount Olive Grand Lodge in Chicago, which, if you combine those 2 Grand Lodges together, you really have the largest membership of your frat brothers in the United States. Also with California, John G. Jones and H.B. Turner in Texas. So, but your frat brothers, that's why I gave you that name I gave you last night. Your frat brothers are waiting on you. They will be there in full force to stand in solidarity with this horrific act that has occurred. Look, we ain't just talking the talk. We walking the walk. We walking the walk. You're about to see a bunch of black suits and black ties saying we ain't having this no more. Because at the end of the day, what Brother Fatim says is very important. We can't just talk it. We've got to talk it, walk it, and stand firm that we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and begin to do what we need to do, not as a reactive measure, but as a proactive measure, that this doesn't happen again. Too many of us have died senselessly by the folks that were supposed to protect and serve us. And I now go back and rest my mic. And Sister Jack, the mic is yours, because it's your day. Go ahead. Come on now.
No, it ain't my day. Every day is my day. But
yeah, every day your day.
So salutes to your frat brothers, and salutes to you, Fatim, for always jumping right in, being on the front lines, doing what you have to do, utilizing your voice and not being afraid to say what you believe in. I admire that so much about both you guys, because you will stand 10 toes down firm on what you believe in, because we have to all stand for something and not be afraid to stand for it. We have to be willing to lose our lives for what we believe in. And too often we're too scared. We're too wrapped up in the materialistic things of this world, that we're too afraid to really stand on something. And when you get to the point where you're ready and willing and able to be a revolutionary, to stand on something, because guess what? People don't realize, but Jesus was a revolutionary. You know what I'm saying? So we have to stand on something and work hard and fight all the way until the end. So it takes people like you, my brothers, and your connections to all come together like Voltron and stand up in the face of adversity and stand up in the face of wickedness. Because that's what, every time you guys stand up, or we all stand up, 9 times out of 10, it's in the face of wickedness, to combat the wicked, crazy, demonic forces that's roaming on this earth. So thank God for, people like our viewers and people like us that are not afraid to stand up and put our lives on the line, because it could be dangerous. It could be a target on our backs, but we got to do what we got to do. So kudos, y'all. And if I'm gonna look up some flights for Chicago too and talk to my husband about it. If I could dip out, maybe I'll try to dip out also.
That. Thank you. And when you said that remind me, I'm not a big that Voltron thing, but I did go to see the Transformers, and I remember when whatever that bot said, whatever that call was, and he said so and so roll out. That's what it is. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is about. I hate that. I'm just, Transformers was just a little under me when it came out, so I was not in the house watching TV then. I was watching it with Superman and Batman. Nah, I was in the womb then. I was in the thought. I never get trapped. I never get trapped, yo.
The Jackson 5 show was out when you was
Lord. Yeah, I have to say. So I'm gonna say it now. I'm older than 42. I'm 45.
Okay. So it is 16 minutes past the hour. Good morning to everybody who is logging into the chat. And listen, family, we've got to be in a place. Let me put my drink down, because I'm here on the road show. I am literally on the road. I pulled over to get the show started. I know we have a great guest coming in today. I'm literally a rock's throw. To be exact, by the time the guest comes on, I'll probably be back on the road rolling. I'm going to actually pull up to her alma mater. I'm going to be in Rattler territory. Yes, there will be a Jaguar and a Tiger in Rattler territory. Tallahassee, I am on my way. That speech last night, just a transition. Mm-hmm. I have heard some awesome speeches in my 57 rotations around the sun. I have been privileged to hear former General Powell, who is now gone to glory, speak. I've heard some great people speak. Grandmaster Cope, I'm still in Florida, baby. I'm still in Florida. Wanted to say big ups to you. Yeah. I've heard some great speeches. That what was said last night shows unselfish, unwaveringly love for this country and for the position and the seat of the presidency. That man literally said, I want to stay here, but it's not for me. Mm-hmm. It's not for the greater good of the country. And these young voices need to come up and rise up and begin to take their place and now shape this government and what it needs to be. And that was beautiful, because too many times now Trump in real trouble. Former President Trump, you in real trouble, because now you the old man. You don't see everything that you use. See, God is awesome. And I'm going to say this to Sister Jax. I woke up this morning before I got on the road, and I am studying the tribes of Reuben and the encampment at Manassas.
Ooh, you gave me the chills.
I'm doing that for some upper studies, because I have now received myself to be a place, because I am a student of a student of a student of a student of a student, which now places me in the position of the teacher. So now there's going to be some students coming behind me, and I have to be able, and there's so much I am learning about Ezra. I'm studying a great deal about Ezra, just about the encampments. And some folks don't know, our history is deeper than you think. It's deeper than you think, and there's so much I am learning and continue to learn. But now I will try to transfer that on, that future generations will be able also to talk about the tribes and the encampments and the chakras. I'm going to talk to Brother Fatim about that. It's something that just is I have been enlightened this weekend. I have been enlightened these last few days. And I want my folks to know we are a beautiful people. We are a beautiful tribe of people, and we need to continue to enlighten one another. That was a great. When I tell you great, that was a great speech last night. And I look forward to the election. I look forward to the election of the first woman of color as president of the United States of America, because it's going to happen. Kamala Harris is coming. She coming. That's all I got to say. So I'm going to back out for a minute, let y'all two hang in, and I'll be right back.
All right. So Sister Jack, let me just say this real quick. So I wanted Joe to hear this, but you know, it was hard to, it was a little hard to go down the road of masonry. Because Jesus said that you don't take a light and you hide it. You put it out in the open for everyone. For me to study under something called the green light, the mystic order of Melchizedek, you know, a lot of things that Joe and you say I've studied, I just don't talk about because I can't talk about it to certain people. Okay. But it's interesting that when we travel this life of knowledge, because knowledge is for everyone, for everyone. And but it's certain things that there's, as they say, as Joe knows, there's certain degrees and there's certain things. Same thing with you, Jack. You've learned things that it's for everybody, but everybody's not for that because they don't know how to utilize it or abuse it. I remember when I was younger. Oh, there go Joe. You know.
Yeah, so, I'm back. Like I never went anywhere. I just had to turn my. I heard my vehicle cuts off after it just sits and idles for a minute. So you know, I had to get back. I had to turn this air back on. It's hot here in Florida.
Gotcha. So, like I said, it was a little hard to go down that road at first, but I seek counsel on that because there was a lot of things that I studied that when I studied that under this, I already knew. And these are the kind of conversations that I've had with top ministers across the country. I mean, I sat with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Reverend Jesse Jackson, and a lot of other people that also learned men. And but for me, I'll be honest with you. Me and Joe talked about it. Sometimes you pull away from your studies. I don't sit and study every day, and that part is on me right there. But let me just say about the speech last night. I look at it as it was a necessity. That speech was necessary. I don't look at it as a great speech. I look at it as I think that if President Biden would have came to grips earlier and understood this earlier and really seek counsel, I think this would have been a different moment in time. But I do think it was a speech that was necessary, important, and he finally came to grips with that. And what Joe and Jack says on this show is about learning. You may not know it today and you may not know it tomorrow, but if you learn it down the road, that means you are making progress. So yes, Joe, and for me, I don't look at it as a great speech, but I do look at it as a great moment. So I have to agree with you. Oh, it's a great moment because it's a transitional moment. He came to that point where he realized that I can't do it anymore. It's time for someone else to do it. Someone else that's younger, someone that's a little bit more vibrant. I did my job. I did a job that I was asked to do. Because remember, he was retired. He was basically retired when President Obama, well, Senator Obama reached back for him to be that candidate, to be that vice president candidate for him on that ticket. So I thank him for the years of service. It also showed last night in that speech, Brother Joe and everybody that's in the chat, that it's time to step off the stage. I pray that he can continue for the rest of his term. He may not be able to. I don't know. We will have to see. But last night was a turning moment, a pivotal moment for official handoff to his vice president, and we will see going forward. So that said, go ahead, Sister Jack.
That's right. You know, I was watching Telemundo yesterday. I didn't understand everything they were saying. Do y'all have Telemundo?
Yeah, I do, but I don't watch it. Yes. But I have it.
Yeah, I was. And I was watching, and I was watching a lot of BBC yesterday. But I saw on Telemundo it did have the poll, and it had Kamala at 44% and Trump at 43%. So I just found it interesting. BBC really talking about it, and Kamala and all that stuff. So it was great. But what you were just saying, Fatim, made me think of this. I just printed it out last week and shared it with my students when I did a workshop. And I think it's so powerful. It's called Know Thyself. You guys may have heard this, saying before. It says, he who knows not and knows not that he knows not is a fool. Shun him. He who knows not and knows that he knows not is a student. Teach him. He who knows and knows not that he knows is asleep. Awaken. And he who knows and knows that he knows is wise. Follow him. So that is so powerful. And, Biden, he eventually knew that what the heck he had to do. So I'm just glad that he did, what he felt was in his best interest, and not only the best interest of himself and his family, but also for the country. So I think this, these words are so powerful. I can share it within the chat if anybody wants to look it up. But I know when I first heard these words, I actually got it after my aunt had passed away. She was very Afrocentric in like Black Power, and she had this amazing book, and she had it sticking in the book. And so I've saved it probably for the past, I guess, almost like 20 years. But I think it's powerful. So, and it's also obviously scripture.
The thing about this is as we begin to move forward and process everything that is happening and everything that is going to happen, because in a few months, the election will be in full effect. Be exact, November the 6th will be here before you know it. And that's the day after the election. And we'll be at a place where folks will know who the next president of the United States of America will be. And I want to respond to my brother, because I did hear you, Brother Fatim, even though I wasn't on the screen. Let me say this, and this is something that I inquired, and my Black Hebrew teacher blessed me with. Many a times we read the Bible, or we read holy parchments. Let me rephrase that, not just the Bible, because I don't want to put the Bible just in this. We read holy parchments from not the standpoint of wanting to get knowledge, but from the standpoint of how we get blessed. And it's a difference between knowledge and blessings. Even in the holy parchments, it speaks of secrets that can only be shared among certain folk, or certain tribes, or certain positions. Everybody can't go into the holies of holies.
Right.
It's just a no-go. So when I say that is, we all have a job to do what we need to do. And I'm not trying to get biblical or preachy right here, but understand everybody needs to respect the position that everyone holds in this world, in the diaspora of coming to this whole thing together. I have to respect what my fingers do and understand my fingers have a function that my mouth and my eyes don't. However, without my fingers, there's certain things I couldn't do with my eyes and my mouth, because those commands and controls go to my fingers. So we just have to get to a point as people that we have to respect each other and what part we play in this whole body of work called life. Because everybody's not going to be the hand, the fist, the fingers, the mouth, the tongue. People play different positions. And I'm sorry, I got a little choked up there. But through it all, let's do this. We really now, if you believe if you believe in Kamala Harris, because here's your choice. You're either going to be voting for Donald Trump, and if you down with Donald, back Donald, go for Donald, be 10 toes down for Donald, and accept that if he wins or lose, that you did your best to make sure that Donald made it to the finish line. If you down for Kamala Harris, do the same. I am Team Kamala. I'm telling you right now, if you don't like me, unfriend me. I'm Team Kamala Harris. And guess what? If she loses, I'm still Team Kamala Harris. I'm 10 toes down for Kamala, regardless if she wins or she loses. I'm celebrating her. I am happy for her. I am happy because at the end of the day, I feel like she is the better candidate. to be president of the United States than Donald Trump. And I stand on that. And that's all I got to say. That's all I got to say.
So let me just say this, because Joe does this too. Because just like I do things and I cut in and this, that, Joe does this. He goes one place and then he goes a whole nother place. So let's back this up. So I don't vote for a duck. You didn't say what the last name. You said Donald. I don't vote for ducks. So you said Donald. I don't vote for ducks. So let's go back, because you skipped over that. So let me go back to Jax, because I wanted to say this. So Jack, when you talk about this, I learned this from Reverend Sharpton. He said, Fatim, do not put down a poll without naming the poll. So there was 2 polls yesterday. There was a Reuters Ipsos poll. And that poll yesterday stated that this poll was conducted immediately following both Republican National Convention and Biden's announcement shows Harris leading 44 to 42%. It's okay, 44 to 42%. Harris is seen by 56% of the registered voters as mentally sharp and capable of dealing with challenges, significantly outpacing Trump's 49% and Biden's 22%. See how far Biden was tanking? He not tanking, he tanked. This was just not just after the debate. Leading up to the debate, his poll numbers was not good. Now, there was a CNN poll that came out, and the CNN poll was a little bit different. It said that the poll shows a close contest between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, with Trump at 49% and Harris at 46% among registered voters within the poll margin of error. So there's 2 different polls, and like you said, different polls. Let's go back to what Joe said about everybody, certain people are learned people and certain thing, I love what you just said, Joe. Some of that would have probably went over some folks' head if they didn't understand what you were saying. I'll just make it very simple. That if you do know this, Jesus went to study in Egypt. He left at a certain age and he came back. Jesus left. He went to study. He went to learn. His disciples did not go through that same school of thought. His disciples did not go through that same school of thought. Jesus basically was their teachers and their tutor to do what needed to be done. I mean, Jax is more of an expert on this than I am. I'm pretty good on it. But Jesus went to study, and it shows the same thing, that there are some people that are chosen and they walk in different lights in life because they develop differently. You understand? And sometimes I'm telling you, too much knowledge can make you bug out. Too much knowledge can make you bug out. People think that they want to know everything, but you can't handle everything. Dr. King, very intelligent man, but he struggled. He not just struggled with intelligence and knowledge, but he struggled because this man was just so advanced, and the love that he had elevated to a point that the love that he had for his people and the love that he had for people in general, that he struggled. He struggled. You need to read his writings, the passion and compassion that he had for his people, and to see over and over that they suffered. And when he made that statement, when Dr. King said that statement closer to 1968, I don't know if it was in 68 or 67, when 63, he talked about, I wish, that my children will be judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Mm-hmm. And he talked about integration in 63. When he got to close to 68 before his death, he talked about, maybe I made a mistake and integrated my folks into a burning house. So we do grow. We do grow. We want well, but sometimes we got to realize we're dealing with the devil. The devil don't compromise. He ain't giving you no break. And I was just talking with your cousin a couple of days ago, Jax, and they show that in movies. The devils laugh at God sometimes. Laugh at God. Where's your God? Where's this? I don't see you stopping all this devilment going out here. But like Joe says, God operates in his or her time. If you believe. And if you believe, and that's the way you have faith, they always say he's on time.
That's
Sister Jax.
Yes.
Sister Jax. So, Sister Jax, your guest is in the green room. I'm going to go ahead and let you make a proper introduction.
Okay. Welcome, guests. So we have an amazing guest, guys. This is something we really need to learn about here, understand, gather knowledge, and mobilize and get motivated. So her name is Monique Holder. Monet Holder, rather. Monet is a voting rights expert and seasoned political strategist, currently serving as the Director of Advocacy and Programs at Florida Rising. So I'm just going to read a bit of her bio for you. Monet Holder is a Senior Director of Advocacy and Programs at Florida Rising. She has led the organization in the fight for voting rights on the local, state, and national levels, developing effective strategies to build Black political power in the state. Monet also serves as the Vice President and member of the Board of Directors for Friends in Need Children's Center, and as a board member for Read USA at the Table Political Committee. She serves as a legislative chair and as a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Monet has lent her voice to international, state, and local media outlets, including the New York Times, AP News, The Economist, Newsweek, The Guardian, Miami Herald, Florida Politics, The Hill, The Baltimore Sun, and the Jacksonville Free Press. Monet has over a decade of policy experience, stemming from her work in Florida House of Representatives, Democratic office, and as a Florida House and Senate staffer. She graduated magna cum laude from Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University with a master's degree in public administration and a bachelor's of science in political science. Her expertise is voting rights, public policy, voter mobilization, and voter engagement. So clap it up, guys. Let's bring in our guest, Miss Monet Holder.
Strike, and strike again. I had to do it. I had to do it. That's all right. You got a real Jaguar about to come into your backyard. I'm about 10 minutes away from FAMU campus. I'm going to actually let y'all keep it flowing and going. Next time you see me, I'm going to be on the campus of FAMU. That's what I got to say about that. I see you. Tell them how the Divine Nine going to make this thing work in voting season. Come on, sis. I'm out of here. It's all yours, Jax.
Okay. Hello, my sister. Yes. So tell us, like what Joe said. Tell us how we're going to make it happen.
Good morning. Yes. I mean, this is such an exciting time. Doing the work of Florida Rising, which I'll mention is an independent political organization working to build grassroots power in Black and Brown communities across the state. So what that means is we're doing this work year round. We're organizing communities around issues that impact them on the local level. We're moving policies at the state level. And we also have a PAC in which we endorse candidates up and down the ballot who are running for office. With that being said, we were having some interesting conversations around where people were as it relates to this presidential election. We have, people running for House and Senate races. We have two big ballot measures here in Florida, one of which is legalizing recreational marijuana, which is Amendment 3. We also have Amendment 4, which is around abortion access, because right now in Florida, we have a 6-week abortion ban, and I can maybe talk about that a little bit later. But when it came to top of the ticket, people weren't sure. People weren't sure if they were turning out. People didn't think they had a candidate that they could identify with. And then there was a handful of people who just knew they didn't want Trump, so they was turning out to vote for Biden, right? But now, once this announcement over the weekend, I've personally got calls and text messages and emails like, what do we do? How do we get down? I was one of those thousands of women who was on that Win with Black Women call through the wee hours of the night, getting energized, strategizing, talking about how we not only donate our time, our talent, but as well as our treasure. The Divine Nine presidents have put out a letter indicating that they are all in for civic engagement and voter mobilization during this time. Even the D9 adjacent organizations, Jack and Jill, which I'm a member of, The Links, 100 Black Men. I've been on so many calls this week, Jax. Everyone is ready. Everyone is fired up to do this thing in November.
Wow. That is amazing. That is amazing. So if you could just do a little crosswalk, I'm always curious with our guest, what led you to where you are today? When you look at Monet as a little girl, tell us about who you were as that little girl that led you to who you are today.
Absolutely. So right now, I currently live in Jacksonville, Florida, but I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, East New York, Brooklyn, Starrett City, right? My family's still there. My aunt, Nikki Lucas, is an assemblywoman in Brooklyn. So politics has been in my blood. My late grandfather, who actually passed away about 2 weeks ago, him and my grandmother gave me my first taste of advocacy and politics. I remember I didn't know I was knocking on doors and handing out flyers about issues in the community. I was just doing what my grandparents told me to do, working on political campaigns. My grandfather ran for office when I was a small girl, and we always knew about fighting back for what was right for our communities, engaging in politics, being informed. He was also a union leader, so that gave me my first taste of what it felt like to be organized and the power of being organized. And from there, I made my way to FAMU, majored in political science, thought I wanted to be a lawyer. Started working in the state capitol because Tallahassee is Florida's capital, and really was embedded in the Democratic office in the House. Started working as a staffer, and I knew that real change needed to happen, especially for Black communities. Fast forwarding a little bit, I kind of stumbled upon this newer grassroots organization that was Florida New Majority at the time. They were looking to take their advocacy work to the next level. It was mostly around organizing local tenants around housing issues in Liberty City, Miami, but wanting to do more policy. And I, at that time, was looking for a place to land. I had just finished grad school, and I knew I could help. I knew I had the expertise around policy. I had the connections and the relationships in the current legislature at the time because I had just left. And they hired me, and I've been there ever since. We've changed our name twice. We're now Florida Rising. We've merged. So 13 years later, I'm still doing the work. It's not from the perspective as from a government agency or the legislative, but it's really on behalf of the people. So it was a different experience for me being in, now what is nonprofit, being what is grassroots. But it's been phenomenal to really be a game changer in what we're dealing with today.
Amen. And that's awesome. And I love to hear your story. So thanks for being transparent and sharing that. And my deepest condolences for the loss of your amazing, amazing grandfather. We always talk about, mentorship, parenting, just guidance and morality within our community. And 9 times out of 10, our guests, their parents, their grandparents, whomever raised them, has such a profound impact on their lives and the trajectory of where they are today. So it just goes to show yet again how important it is to speak life and provide opportunities for your children. It's not enough just to raise your children because they're just, your kids. You got to feed them and clothe them and send them to school. No, it takes that much more. So they had you door knocking and canvassing and, doing all that stuff as a little girl, not even knowing what you were actually doing, but it sets the foundation to where you are today. So kudos to your family for doing that. So you got something?
Oh, of course. I got something.
Oh, you do?
I do. I'm sitting here and I'm just taking notes. And when she said, I didn't know that she was from Brooklyn? You see that? So I'm from Flatbush, Brooklyn. So she said she started at City. I played softball right there off the Belt Parkway, right there coming off of, Pennsylvania Avenue. So I played softball right across the street there. Pastor A.R. Bernard's church is in the community over there. And, it's first of all, I commend you on all the great work that you have done, my sister.
Thank you.
Monet. And, I look back at FAMU, I remember when we kicked off Reverend Sharpton's nationally syndicated radio show. Matter of fact, we kicked it off on the day that we lost a queen mother, Mrs. Coretta Scott King. That day we kicked off his show. I'm the executive producer for Reverend Sharpton. And being out there in the streets in Brooklyn and being an activist, I know what it takes out there. You talk about that call Sunday about women, just like in the Million Man March when in 1995, it was for us brothers, but a lot of women did come to see what was to check it out. When I was on that call Sunday night for a little while, I was speaking with Barbara Arnwine, but she's another person. Mm-hmm. She has her agency Transformative. I was speaking with her. Michael Blake was part of the Monday night call with Roland Martin. I was on that call as well. Melody Campbell, I was with her, which I've known Melody Campbell out there. She's another civil rights activist. When Reverend Sharpton from the National Action Network, when Melody Campbell and her organization, and then National Urban League, when they come together and the NAACP and go into the White House to speak with the president, They are all together. And this is what we have to do as a coalition. But I want to go back to Florida FAMU for a minute, because back when Reverend Sharpton kicked off his show, I forgot what the protest was. But I remember the students down there, they took over some of the student not student buildings, the faculty buildings. And they called into the show, and Reverend Sharpton said, you have my support. I stand with you. And if you need me to come down there, and we have attorneys on standby just in case, because people don't know what it takes to work, to do this, to do the kind of work that you do. And now when you talk about going out there and registering people to vote, people don't realize the fight, the uphill battle to get people to register to vote, the ignorance out there of people realizing the power of their vote. You know, a lot of us say, well, we're not going to vote because we get discontent at times. Well, you got to realize our adversary understand the power of their vote, and you never hear them. You never hear them say, I'm not going to vote. You never hear them say that, because they know that that's power in their hand. Adam Clayton, the late Adam Clayton Powell Jr., Reverend Adam Clayton Powell Jr., former congressman that says, what is in your hand? You utilize what you have in your hand. And Sister Monet, I want you to talk a little bit about it, because one of the things that you know, and you can speak on it as a woman, because that 44,000 women that was on that call Sunday night, that was the country, especially the Black community, has been energized. And I've been saying for the longest, and no, not against President Biden, but we were not energized. And no matter how much you go out there and tell people the importance of voting, if they're not motivated, if they're not inspired, they may register, but they may not get off their duff. They have to have a reason to go out there and vote. Monet, talk about some of your experiences when you try to get people to register to vote and then get out there to vote, that you need this vehicle to help push, because everybody is not political astute. That for us that do this, talk politics or involved in it, a lot of people just come home from work or whatever. They're not watching MSNBC. They're not watching CNN. They're not watching Fox News. They may see a little bit of the world news, a little bit of news, and they're going about their business. They don't dive deep into politics. So talk a little bit about how, you know, some of the struggles of getting people registered to vote and motivated them to vote.
Absolutely. Because registering to vote is actually like step one, right? Mm-hmm. Of a 10-step process to the ballot box. There's so many things that go into it, being trained to properly fill out a voter registration form. Here in Florida, we've seen every single legislative session, we've seen attack on access to the ballot box, whether it be further restrictions on third-party voter registrations, organizations like Florida Rising, like the Divine Nine organizations, which fines that you can incur if you just make a simple human error, right? So we've had to invest in a lot of quality control, background checks, a sophisticated system to make sure not only we're covered as an organization, but the voter registration forms that we collect are processed. Because the last thing you want is somebody to think they filled out a form and it doesn't reach our supervisors of elections office who processes it. But after that, the real work is keeping in touch with people. We have deadlines before each election to make sure once you register, you make it onto the rolls, because you have to be processed. So that's another thing people need to know. If you reach a certain threshold, you may not be able to vote in the primaries, but you vote in the general. So it's all about constant voter education. In addition to that, we're collecting information from folks so we can keep in touch, reminding you about deadlines, reminding you how to find and access your precinct location, because sometimes that changes. Where you can vote during early voting in Florida is different from your actual polling location on election day. We've seen so many times people get frustrated because it's just so much information to navigate in the course of being a mother, working full time, being a dad, doing all these things. You have so much you need to remember just to cast a ballot. In addition to that, have you updated your address? Is your signature still current? You'll get to a polling location and they ask you to sign and it looks different. Why? Because you signed that document 10 years ago. Your fingers, was broken and now you sign different. All the things. You're having a rough day, so you're rushing. we have seen through both our nonpartisan election protection efforts and just working through organizations nationally who take calls when people are at the polls having trouble, that all of these things deter people. You have a short window period. Sometimes you're on your lunch break, you're trying to vote. And any of those instances turn people away. So with voter registration, we take it seriously. We have a program in which we do it year round, and a lot of people are doing that as well, because even if it's not an election year, let's get you on the rolls. Making sure you're updating your address, making sure you're updating your signature, making sure once then you are aware of who's on the ballot. That's most important. You're doing your research and you know where you're going to vote. In Florida, we have the option to do, it used to be called absentee voting, but it's vote by mail. So it doesn't matter. You could be at home polishing your nails. If you feel like you're not going to make it to the polls, request a vote by mail ballot, have it come to your house, fill it out, sign it, return it. So again, that's that multi-step process. And you actually have the opportunity to check online to see if your ballot was received, to see if it was counted prior to election day, which we actually encourage people to do, because if there was an issue with your ballot, let's say you forgot to sign it, but they did receive it, you have a duty to cure it. But sometimes that doesn't happen until post-election, which is, not as effective as if your ballot was cast before time. So yes, voter registration is important. Yes, it's important to be done by people who are trusted messengers in the community, people who aren't trying to persuade you to check a particular party affiliation, but just to get on the rolls. One issue we've been facing as it relates to voter registration and voter suppression is what we call list maintenance. So I remember when I first got into this work, what was happening in the state is that they were purging the rolls with people who had last names that sound foreign, for example. So people who they assumed were not rightful and eligible voters. That's a huge population of people that were being taken off the rolls, number one, without their knowledge, and number two, erroneously, right? So it's up to us to pay attention to what's going on, because they're throwing tactics at us from every vantage point. Also in Florida, people who are returning citizens, so people who have felony convictions that has served their time, they were disenfranchised from voting. Back in 2018, we had a huge ballot initiative. Shout out to Florida Rights Restoration Coalition and my brother Desmond Reed, who ran that campaign. Florida Rising was a part of it. I got petitions signed for that as well and worked really hard. We got the rights restored to 1.4 million returning citizens in the state who can now be voters. But what did the legislature do? That next legislative session, they passed a bill that instituted fines and fees. So if you had fees back from the 80s or 90s that you didn't pay, guess what? You were no longer eligible to vote. We have to do the groundwork of figuring out in which county those fees are, how much they cost. And a lot of our returning citizens, they're working class people. Some of them are still trying to find their footing. Now they have to come up with this, amount of money to pay from the past after they've served their time in order to cast a ballot. What is that? That's disenfranchisement. That's voter suppression all over again. Then they pulled a stunt in these last upcoming years. They were issuing voter registration cards to returning citizens who had not quite made it to be back on the voter rolls yet. And once they went and voted, after they got those cards from the state, they went and locked them up. Our governor, Ron DeSantis, he thought it necessary to pop up with an elections task force, but their only mandate was to target returning citizens. And what do we know? The majority of returning citizens come from Black and Brown communities and are going to vote in the way that they should for people who will represent Black and Brown communities. So it's not coincidental. It's not voter fraud, which is the word they like to throw around, which is fictitious. It's by design to disenfranchise us. So it starts with voter registration, absolutely wholeheartedly, but it continues on with the education, the advocacy, and pushing our way to the ballot box.
Amen. Phenomenal information. Question for you. What do you say to those that say, oh, I'm not going to vote. My vote doesn't matter. It's a waste of time. It's already set up. Whoever's going to win is going to win. My vote doesn't matter. I'm not voting. What do you say to those people?
It's a couple things. Number one, a no vote is a vote for the opposition. One. Two, if your vote didn't count or didn't matter, you wouldn't see all these tactics that's trying to get you to sit this one out. There's obviously power in it. It's power in the vote. And it's cliche, but it's true. Like, your vote is your voice, right? Especially for down ballot races, especially for local races. These are the elections that literally impact your everyday life. So you have to be a part of that decision, and you have to cast your ballot.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, oh, go ahead, Jack. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, for those young children that are, turning 18 or just turned 18, what do you say their next steps are for those that have no idea what to do, but they know they want to participate in the election? Could you tell them what they need to do?
Yeah, so in many states, Florida included, you can pre-register to vote when you're 16. If not, you can definitely wait until you're 18. Vote, depending on where you're located, voter registration looks different. We have online voter registration in Florida. You can contact your local supervisors of elections office, or maybe name something different in different states. But find out how you get registered and get registered quickly. After that, do your research on where your polling location is. Get a couple of friends to go with you and register with you and to show up on voting day with you. But depending on where you are, it's your local supervisors of elections office or whoever manages elections in your city or your county or your state, or reach out to some of the organizations. Like I mentioned, any D9 organization will make sure you get registered. I guarantee that. So your teachers, your schools may be able to give you information on how to register to vote, or ask your parents or Google. Y'all are all on your phones. Because it looks different in every state. But definitely in Florida, your local supervisor of elections office, you can walk in, you can go online, you can register to vote. You can go to floridarising.org and get information there on how to register to vote. It's out there. So just use your resources, register, and don't let anyone stop you from getting to the ballot box.
And when we say systemic racism, this is one of the examples that we talk about systemic racism. A lot of people want to look at markers that, we elected the first Black president with President Barack Obama, so we don't need certain rights. We don't need affirmative action. We don't need DEI, diversity, equity, and equality. We don't. Inclusion. Excuse me. But as Sister Monet Holder said, voter education. When they try to make examples, the same thing that they did in slavery. They take one slave, they use that person as an example to intimidate and scare other folks from doing what needs to be done. They locked so and so up, because of X, Y, and Z. So now I paid my time. I bet not sign this card. I bet not go out there and vote because you're intimidated. No, that's like she said, voter education and voter suppression. These are the things that they're doing the work, and not only they're hitting the ground. There's your organization, Florida Rising, and other organizations. There's another gentleman, white male, Greg Palast, and he went into Georgia, and they had to go into court because they purged the rolls. They have to go into court, but it takes time, it takes money to go into court to win these, to put these people back on the rolls. But guess what? If these people don't know that they have been purged from the rolls, and when it comes time to vote, and then you try to fight for, the voting is over with. See, that's why we say that you need to know. That's why not voting every damn 4 years, y'all. Sorry, Monet, I can get very passionate and animated on this damn show. So, we say it. Politics is local. So when you are active, be active in your community, be active in the school board, in the school board. You get out there and vote on every level, because not only you, but your children. Teach your children the process, so then they go, because they don't teach you this very well in school now. Civics and all this is not very well taught in school. So it's our job as parents, as older folks that understand the process, to sit down with our younger folks and educate them. Because when they realize they have this power, you don't realize how they feel inspired and motivated and like, I know this and I see the gains. Because when you understand, it's harder to pull the wool over your eyes when you understand the process and understand the importance of the process and understand those that are trying to hold you back from the process.
So I know Sister Monet is going to respond to that. I like to say the following. I know it's time for us to get engaged, get involved, get registered, and go vote. But like I tell people, we got to go beyond the registration into voter participation. It's one thing to be registered. It's another thing to actually go to the polls. So as we go to the polls, because it's crystal clear, when we stick together, we win. When we stick together, we win. So don't let people fool you by saying this is a DEI candidate. No. Let people understand that Vice President Kamala Harris, if you put all her credentials together and match it up to J.D. Vance and President Trump, she's still more qualified before you even put her running mate into the equation, Sister Monet.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's a lot of the conversations that we've been having. Don't let misinformation, disinformation, racist, misogynistic rhetoric flood this election, right? We all have a duty as Black people, as the allies of Black folks, as progressives, as the left, the far left, whatever you want to identify yourself as, to keep the facts clear and straight when it comes to this election. She's overqualified, more than qualified to run in this race, to win this race, and to serve this country. If you look back, people have, different thoughts and views on her tenure as a prosecutor or any other things, and that's all fine and dandy. But we're at a point now, and my colleague mentioned it the other day on a staff call, we have very little time and no foreseeable better options, right? She is the best option. She is the one who should and will run this country. So we have to stay the course. We have to stay on message. And we have to turn out, right? So it's not enough to just get on the calls or for me to speak here today. I have to show up to the polls. I have to bring as many people as I can with me. What has made me smile is a lot of my friends or even influencers that I follow on social media, they'll start off by saying, I'm not necessarily into politics, but they are using their voices and their platforms to educate based on their research, based on what they see, and based on what they know will be detrimental for this country. And it's not Trump. We can't have Trump in office. That's it. We can't not show up. And we have to vote. So as long as we keep those things in mind and people actually activate, I think we'll be in good shape to have VP Harris, take office in November.
Yes. Let me just say this real quick. So Rhonda Hairston, one of our viewers here, she says Tamika Mallory, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, as well as Sister Monet Holder, in the sense of these younger, vibrant, we just lost a Shiro, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, last weekend, and we talk about Congresswoman Maxine Waters, who's out there, but these are the ladies that for years have been leading and holding the torch, and now we got to see the young folks, because a lot of times we criticize young folks, but I said before, we got to stop criticizing young folks and start spotlighting young folks that are doing the work. Out there, like yourself, Sister Monet Holder. I've also produced for the National Urban League Instagram podcast, and touched a lot of young folks that are doing the work across the country. I'm going to change this dynamic a little for you, Sister Monet. I'm going to bring you into a little bit of the politics now. And we just had Tamika Mallory on my show, the Open Line Online on WBLS Facebook page this past Sunday. And I've known Tamika Mallory for quite a long time. When she was the youngest executive director for the National Action Network under Reverend Sharpton before she moved on. But my question to you, and I noticed this, especially when President Biden nominated attorney Ketanji Brown. She was a justice as well, not a Supreme Court justice, but she was a justice at that time. When he nominated her, I watched something that bothered me. What bothered me is I saw that this woman, through all of her accolades and her achievements, that Black men seem to have a problem, for whatever the reason, uplifting a Black woman. And I'm not saying I'm feeling it now, but that is part of the conversation. That's the underbelly of the conversation of our Black men supporting a Black sister. A lot of men, because of their ego and whatever is there, they seem, when they're not part of the conversation, then there's jealousy, envy, and whatever. Have you had these type of conversations? Have you seen this in the past? And is this some of your concerns moving forward, especially trying to get a coalition of all folks? Because we can't just win it with the Black vote, but we need to mobilize the Black vote. And I just see that you sisters are out front on this. Yes, Black men that understand and know what's important and what's at stake is out there, but there still seem to be sort of a problem with some Black men. What are your thoughts on this?
So I definitely see that dynamic in many instances outside of just politics. And you took the words right out my mouth, or the phrase, I would wrap it up as ego, right? It's an egotistical thing. What was so beautiful about having like the Win with Black Men call was that it was almost a wraparound of Black women, not just VP Harris, but of all of us, that you all have our backs, right? And I think that's what it takes. I think it takes other Black men showing that it's okay to embrace Black women. It's okay to be beside or even behind a Black woman, right? And it doesn't demasculate you. It doesn't undervalue a Black man. It actually shows strength. So it's the more we can see those examples, the more young Black men can see us building, you all building together. They know that it's okay. I know coming out of Trump's first term, and even a little bit before that, I've seen a lot of organizations centered around Black men come up across the country. Even at Florida Rising, we had a Black Men Rising program where we were in barbershops, cigar lounges, even strip clubs, organizing Black men around their power in elections, their power in voting, and power in supporting what we had, a campaign. And we still have all of the the shirts and the banners. So we're pulling them out that says, I'm voting for Black women, right? When we say trust Black women, it's not just a tagline or a hashtag. We have to live it and breathe it. And it's not just other women trusting Black women. It's Black men, it's Black children, it's our allies trusting us. So I've seen, like I mentioned, organizations like Black Men Build, led by, my brother Philip Agnew, who are popping up across this nation, organizing Black men just around issues. So whether you want to support Kamala Harris or you want to support another Black woman, any other cause, you should be supporting the issues that's impacting your community. So I think those are all what's actually being circulated and permeated into Black men and Black communities right now in this moment. And it's really magical. And I think it's going to make the difference in the election this November.
I completely agree with you and concur. I like to say the following from Black men and representing Black men, myself as a Black man. We have to do what's right. I keep telling people, do not pay attention to this rhetoric. Understand this is not about a person or about party. It is purely about policies. And you have to ask yourself, who has implemented the policies that were best for not only the greater good of everybody, but especially Black and brown folks? Because understand this, when policies bring suffrage to most folk, you can multiply that times 10. It's 10 times worse for Black and brown folks. So you have to really ask yourself, and I put the challenge out there yesterday, I'll put the challenge out there again today. For those who are supporting former President Trump, give me 5 things, 5 policies that he has put out there that has been a blessing to Black and brown folks. You can't do it. It does not exist. He is not for us. He is not like us. And for that reason, I cannot support him because his policies does not support us. We have to stand 10 toes down behind the Vice President, Kamala Harris, to be the next president of the United States of America. And I said what I said.
Absolutely. And Joe, thank you so much for bringing that up, because I was going to ask Monet, we have several viewers that faithfully follow our show that are straight up Trumpians, and they follow him to the end and will try to battle us until the end. So what would you say to those Black men primarily that do support Trump 10 toes down? They are for him, ride or die. But they're not saying as much since Kamala is now in the race versus when Biden was in the race. But what would you say to somebody like that looks like us, that says, you know what, I'm still voting for Trump no matter what?
I think first is a "Are you okay?" question. No, but it's definitely, um, asking them and challenging them to step outside of themselves, right? Obviously, there's something about Trump that resonates with their self-interest, right? So, that I guess I can respect that, but asking them to think outside of themselves and think about the people that they care about, their communities, generations to come, and the way in which they want to leave the world. If they decide that they want to leave the world a better place, is having someone like Trump serving in office, fulfilling that passion or that goal of yours. And if your answer is no, then you need to vote differently. Also having them recognize that what Trump may put in place now, or what comes to be from Project 2025, will take decades upon decades to undo. So do you want to be the reason why we're living in those dark days? And if your answer is no, then you need to vote for Kamala Harris. But it's all about, your values. And that's the most I can offer someone who still, after all that has happened and all that Trump is vowing literally to do, would still think to cast a ballot for him.
Let's turn our conversation. Yeah, the great response. Let's turn our conversation somewhere, because I want to, since we have you, I want to, we all up and down this spectrum today. Let's turn our conversation to the young folks. Let's turn our conversation to the millenniums and Gen Z, because a lot of us are not there. When we're not in that, we're past that stage. And when you start to have the conversation, because you even see, back in the day, generation gaps were longer. Mm-hmm. Now we see generation gaps. My daughters are 3.5 years apart. And I remember when they both were teenagers, their music choice was different. Their dress style was different. Of course, their friends were different. And I remember speaking with KRS-One and Chuck D of Public Enemy, and we were talking about how the generation gaps are getting narrower and narrower and narrower. And when you talk to a millennium versus a Gen Z, sometimes their ideals, their goals are just totally different. What is the conversation? Because I know you're trying to register people to vote, and like you said, it's a process, but you're also having conversation with these young folks too, Gen Z and millennium. What is their thought process in the conversation of politics and being voter educated? Like you talk about being educated in voting. What is the conversation when you're having with these young folks about just voting overall, but also where we're at with this election? Again, we're not a weekend where we had a handoff from President Biden to VP Kamala Harris. So I don't know how much conversation that we can assess at this point, but we're going to have to move fast to reach these young folks. You got to realize that now how we reach folks is not just through knocking on doors. We go through TikTok. A lot of the older folks don't even know how to do TikTok. They may see it, but they don't know how to do it. You got to reach these kids through social media now at the end of the day. So what are some of your conversations with the young folks, and how do you think that you, your organization, and us that are doing these platforms reach younger folks? Besides, of course, we have to talk with them and speak with them. But what is some of your suggestions and ideas on this?
So young folks are definitely paying attention. And whether last night, yesterday evening, I was on a panel discussion that it was three, I guess, Gen Zers. Some of them, one was still at Florida State University. I think the other two were recent graduates and have been doing sort of political work and activism within the community for a while, but they weren't older than like 25 years old. To just hear about their, number one, their background in community, but how engaged they were in politics in the process was just, it blew my mind. But, and that's a unique set of young folks. But the ones that I talk to that are just in community, right? Maybe just hanging out because it's summer. The ones that we encounter if we're on the doors or have a community meeting in our office, they too are paying attention. They know what's going on. But what I do notice is they're not easily swayed. They want to know clearly and specifically, how will you help me? How will you help my mom? How does this set me up for success in the future? What do I have to worry about when I walk out of my house as a young Black person, right? Whether it's in this state or in this country, they want answers. They demand answers. They deserve answers. So part of our work is not just pushing down their throats that they should register, that they should turn out, but literally taking the time to educate them on how they can make change and being real with them, right? Change is not going to come in a day, a week, one cycle, one term as in presidency, maybe not even in the next decade. It's a long game. But if you get into it now, if you shape it now, you can change the outcome. So those are the conversations that we're having. And some of them, get on board. Some we're still working on. But you said it best, social media is the key. It's the tool. Outside of like in-person conversations. And sometimes it's hard to catch them. Sometimes they don't want to talk. They're busy, they're living their lives, but they will definitely be on that phone. So it's reaching them where they are. Some of the tactics we use as an organization is influencers, either if it's local heroes, because, it's always somebody, it's a makeup artist, it's a local rapper, it's somebody who owns a food truck or a chicken spot that everybody listens to. We're talking to them and saying, hey, we need you to be our trusted messenger. We need you to be our voice. And that works. We're using TikTok. We're using Reels on Instagram. For some of us is out of our comfort zone. And I'm a millennial, but I'm not as young of a millennial. So they're like, Monet, we want you to get on TikTok. And when I tell y'all, it takes me 1 million takes, get it right, whether it's the dance, getting my mouth to match the words, but I'll do it because I'm down to do what it takes. I have a 7-year-old and an 11-year-old. And they know about everything that's going on because usually, except for right now, they on the side of me listening to my conversations when I'm on Zooms. Every meeting is not during school or camp hours, so they're tagging along. And oftentimes they just want to come, right? So they can tell you better than I can what the issues are. And they're talking to their friends or they're asking me, Mom, what does this mean? It threw me off one time. And I'll say it when my son was like, what is abortion? Right? I was like, right? Right. So we had to have a conversation because he heard me talking about, the amendment in the campaign because I sit on the executive committee for the campaign running the ballot initiative in Florida. So he wanted to know. And I took a pause and I had to think about a way to speak to him about it. But if I don't, somebody else will. Right. So we have to do that. We have to meet them where they are. If it's social media, if it's the park, wherever it is. If my son plays AAU ball, so I'm at games talking about everything with everybody. So the young people, to circle back to your question, they're listening. They know what's going on, but they want to know tangible and results that they can look forward to, and they want answers to their questions.
Absolutely.
You can't just pacify. I just want to tail in. I know it's not a question. I can pass it right on. You can't pacify folks. That's why I keep saying you can get up here and I debated my team Sunday on WBLS, and I said it's not just about talking about what Trump did or not going to do. It's got to be about the candidate, and you can't go to young folks. That's why I said a lot of times us older folks are stuck in our damn ways. Young folks are, like you said, they're specific. They want answers. And that's why I say stop pacifying folks and start saying that this is how we're going to get forward. You can't just sit there and talk about Trump's record and then you can't talk about the record of your candidate. That's why we have to have a change of guard. So now the candidate can talk about it and then we can come around and give that candidate support at the end of the day. A lot of times, a lot of old folks are stuck in their ways. You can learn from some of the young folks as well. Go ahead, Sister Jack.
No, I just love, Sister Monet, how you're so transparent with your children and you bring them around and you engage with them and speak to them about it because it's so important. And it just makes me think about how important it is for us to be vulnerable and show that vulnerability to our children, but also to be honest, right? So, and being honest sometimes when they do ask us such harsh, questions that it's like, oh my God, what do I say? How do I respond? And just for our viewers to also sometimes, depending on the age of the children, the maturity of the children, because they can be biologically, 16, but still mentally and emotionally still be like a 10-year-old, right? So we have to be careful how we do that. But honestly, even with the abortion, thinking about that in terms of sharing that with the children, what is it, right? Honestly, if we do keep it real and funky with our kids, abortion is murder, right? Really, it's murder. Like, it's just a dressed up way to say it. So no matter what the reason why a woman, has an abortion, ultimately the fundamental concept of it is still murder no matter what. But many times we don't want to have those conversations with our children. But sometimes as they grow, if we do have that honest conversation with them, it puts them in a different position as they grow up. And they realize, as a young man, I can't be poking around, everywhere, because if the girl gets pregnant, she's not my wife, and she decides that she wants to have an abortion, they can dial back and remember, like, wait a minute, that's murder, essentially, right? So I know the way society is now, they try to look at things differently, but facts are facts. So I'm sure you didn't say that to your babies, but it's just awesome that your son was wise enough to even ask that question. And to just be around that. And parents need to do that more, integrate your children. And I always say there's a difference between involvement and engagement. Your kids could be involved and kind of bounce around with you everywhere you go, but you're taking it to the next level where you actually engage with them and really show them and explain to them. So kudos to you for that, sis.
Thank you.
I just want to say real quick is, my late wife, and I talk about this before, like I said, I walked in on her, my oldest daughter, 5th grade, the youngest 3rd grade, and she was putting a condom on the cucumber. And at first I questioned it. Then I thought about it and I slept on it. And he told me straight to my face, they're not going to learn from the street. And then when the school gave them books and it was something about a stork bringing the baby home, my wife, Hanifa, said, oh, no. She ain't saying I'm telling them about the male reproduction system and the female reproductive system, but I am not giving them this damn lie about some stork. So my kids learned at home very early on about things about life, because when my late wife said that when she got 18 and she decided that she wanted to be intimate with somebody or not be intimate with somebody, and her mother said, just keep your legs closed. She said, when that feeling came over, my mother never told me about this feeling. She just told me to keep my legs closed. You understand? So I agree that you're right, Sister Jax. And I'm glad, Monet, you hit that moment with your child, because today, if we don't have a conversation with the children, this will.
Yes.
This will. And this may tell them the truth, but it's going to be raw and it's going to be graphic. You understand what I'm saying? So we might as well arm our children that's what I'm saying. Stop babying your children. I see parents baby 15 and 16-year-old boys, baby their asses. And then when they grow up and make bad choices, I wonder why. Because you held their hand too long. You got to be able to teach your children. And as you say, Sister Jack, you got to see how they move along as they grow older and their mentality. You understand? But that's why you just don't allow the school system to be the only teacher to your children. You have to teach your children as well.
Absolutely. And since when they're young, so it's just going to keep on coming. Some of the questions that they're going to start to ask you be like, oh Lord. I remember when my daughter was small and I got pregnant and had my son. A few years later, she's like, Mom, because when she started learning about sex and stuff in school, she was like, Mommy, so that means you and Daddy had to do that in order to create Xavier. And she was like, she looked at me, she was like, you disgust me. And she was little, but she was like, you are so disgusting. How could you do that and let somebody do that to you? Like, she was just devastated. So trust me, sis, the questions and stuff are going to come. So arm yourself up. And
It is 21. Take that back. It's 22 minutes past the hour. And this is why, as we engage into conversation like this, you have to understand the role of government, those that you have elected into office. Because mind you, many of us, especially myself, I can say that because I've had 57 rotations around the sun. I was not raised like Sister Monet. I was not raised like Sister Jax. And now to have people legislate how you raise your kids. If I laugh all the time when I see some of these cases of abuse. And I say to myself, well, my God, my whole childhood, I was being abused. But once again, this is where you have to pay attention to policy. Because watch this, there cannot be a pipeline from the school to the prison, especially when it comes to Black and brown kids. And see, many a times, and I say this often because I am in the occupation of law enforcement, I tell folk all the time, well, how you want to do this? Would you rather me cuff them and stuff them, or would you rather be the person to be the disciplinarian and handle your child discipline? Because if you don't, we got plenty of folks out here who will, and they won't do it in love.
That's right.
That's true.
You're right. So Monet, if you could go into a little more about Project 2025 and its rollout, like what do you really think about that?
So it's interesting because it definitely, number one, is scary, to say the least. But we were talking about this at work a couple of days ago. Here in Florida, we've been seeing Project 2025 roll out for quite some time. One thing I know about the right is that they have long-term strategies that sometimes we don't always have, right? They know policies that they're going to push across the nation in their timeline. They know who they're going to put in office to move these policies, and they know the impact that it's going to have on Black and brown communities, because the goal is to disenfranchise us and ultimately eradicate us. So we've seen pieces of it through Governor DeSantis in Florida, whether it be through redistricting, whether it be through how they tried to roll back, like I mentioned, the restoration of rights around abortion and reproductive rights here. We've also seen it as it relates to our public education system, how they've been banning books in the state of Florida, how they've erased Black history from our curriculum and even put in the notion that Black people benefited from slavery. So we're living in Project 2025 here in Florida, literally, and we're working hard to make sure that we elect a governor that not only will represent us, but will do the hard and tough work to get us back where we need to be as a state. So, I mean, it's a almost 1,000 page document, but have been really digesting the key points of it that impacts our communities and our children. And like I said, it's scary. So we need to position ourselves not only to make sure that even though Trump is in some ways trying to say he wasn't behind it, he was, people from his administration were part of the crafting of this. So we need to make sure we do everything we can to not see, to ensure this doesn't see itself into fruition. And that starts with, the top of the ticket. But we have to pay attention, like I said, to our down ballot races. We have to pay attention to our midterm elections. And I think one of the brothers said it earlier, don't just vote presidential, because Florida is a testament that even if we don't elect Trump, this mandate that comes down from Project 2025, they're implementing it in the states. So we have to take back the ballot box there. We have to step up and run for office, and we have to support candidates who are running to make sure that they have well-funded campaigns so they can win. And we have to push people once we get them in office. And this is a big thing we talk about, is accountability, because even folks that look like us or have the same party affiliation like us, who we vote in, they don't do right by us, right? And oftentimes it's related to money, right? Because they're, like I mentioned, campaigns or are underfunded, so they want to make sure they get reelected. But it's not enough of us who are speaking out and saying, don't vote yes on this bill just because someone else is doing it. Yes, bigger lobbyists and interest groups have more money to constantly be in your ear, but we need you to vote on the right side of community, right? And we need to educate them, and we need to tell them that all these things, whether it's workers' rights, public education, environmental justice, the economic policies, the voting rights that they're trying to attack, we need to have more people in office that are going to vote the right way. So it is coming up now during a presidential election year. Project 2025 is going to be the thing that Trump implements once if he gets that position, which we'll make sure that he doesn't. But it is something for us to also be concerned about on the state and local level, because there are people in elected office who stand by this and will try to slip it under the rug in our communities.
Awesome. Thank you for those great words. Now, as we're preparing to close, when you talk to or consider speaking with the younger people, right? What do you say to them if they're saying, you know what, I want to learn how to, become an advocate, or I want to get deep into advocacy, but I don't know where to start. What do I do to get started? I want to make a change, but I have no idea what to do first. What would you say to them?
Well, that's easy for me. At Florida Rising, we have monthly People's Assembly meetings in each region that we're in the state. So I invite them to come join. You don't have to say anything. You can just listen, be a fly on the wall. We often every year have fellowship programs where we offer a stipend, and they learn everything from organizing to policy, how to do research. if you're a dues paying member of Florida Rising, which is $25 a year, and some young people will sponsor them, they can attend our annual advocacy day. So come with us to Tallahassee, which is the state capital, and go with us during legislative session to talk to legislators, sit in the gallery, see how it works when they're voting on bills, talk about issues that they care about, and get one-on-one interactions with them, because we've built relationships. Take them with us to our local city council commission meetings and hearings. Prepare themselves to give testimony and speak, or just to observe. So if you're not in Florida and Florida Rising isn't accessible to you or accessible in your particular county, there are organizations like ours that will introduce you to the work. Your NAACP, your Urban League, your 100 Black Men, they are there. But always, I just invite them, come out, come hang with me for a while.
Amen. Amen. So thank you so much for those words. Do you have any other words that you would like to say, or any other information you want to share with us as you close out?
No, sis, I think you got it all out of me this morning. I appreciate it. I'm honored. Thank you for having me on the show today.
Yes.
Hold on, Sister Mallory. I do have something. Hold on. Let folks know that are on this podcast now, or those who may replay it, let them know how to get in touch with you on social media, how to get in touch with your organization. I think that is repeat worthy, because there are folks that are in the Florida area that may be logged on, and folks all over that may want to connect with you, partner with you, and continue to push this narrative that we've got to get out there and get the information out for the greater good of our community. So tell folks how to get in touch with you.
Absolutely. So my social media handles on Twitter and Instagram is Monet_Holder. If you want to get involved with Florida Rising as an organization, it's at FL Rising. That's on Twitter, Facebook, as well as Instagram. And then our website is www.floridarising.org. And there you can learn more about what we're working on as an organization, and also tap into some of our events. So whether it's local canvassing, phone banking, text messaging, and phone banking and text messaging, you can be remote. You don't have to be in office with us. Our upcoming meetings, campaigns, all of that is on our website. So at Monet_Holder on Twitter or Instagram, at FL Rising on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and FloridaRising.org is our website.
Phenomenal, sis. We look forward to seeing you on MSNBC, CNN, whatever.
And open line, because I'm calling you, Jax. I need you to conference us in, because I need to put her in the arsenal, and I want to bring her on with Barbara Arnwine. Like I said, I spoke with Barbara Arnwine Sunday, and a whole host of other folks out there that are doing this type of work across the country, and doing other work and network them together because we have a message to get out here. And it's not just going to be the examples of those that are MSNBC, like Reverend Sharpton and Mark Morrell, but there's other people that don't have the big names that are doing the work, and we have to spotlight them. So definitely, Sister Jax will be putting me in touch with you. Matter of fact, you can conference us in, Sister Jax, and then we can have a conversation.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you so much. Look forward to it.
Yes, thank you so much, my sister. We really appreciate you. We look forward to having you join us again on our show. You're welcome anytime. If there's anything that you're working on that you need to promote, that you want to share, any breaking news, just hit me up. You can give me a call directly, and we will get you back on.
Awesome. Thank you.
My love. Give my it's two boys, is it?
Boy and a girl.
Give my niece and nephew my love, girl.
I will do. Bless.
Yes. Okay. God bless you. Have a great one.
Hey, Sister Jax, I gotta commend you, but I didn't know I had so many mommies on this damn show. So let me just explain this here, because I had a smile on my face while she was talking. You ain't the only one, Jax, that asked me that just now.
Oh, are you serious?
No, yeah, I'm dead serious. You can expect who the other person that asked me that.
Okay.
But what happened is I'm doing two jobs. You got to realize I produce Reverend Sharpton's show, and he's out a lot. He's out today. He's going to be out some parts tomorrow. Tuesday, we're in Chicago. He's going to be out. Thursday, he's going to be out. So I text his daughter, and I was like, Dominique, his eldest daughter, and I said, Dominique, can you cover on August? She was like, oh, I'm out next Wednesday and Thursday for my birthday. So I smiled when I said, you better, sis, you better be out for your birthday. So that's what I smile. So I'm always, multitasking here as I'm doing the show, because sometimes I'm talking to Washington, sometimes I'm talking to the White House, I'm talking to this person, to that person while I'm doing the show. Sometimes I'm talking to other people, but that was but that wasn't why the smile was on my face today. It was business. It was business.
And you know what? And that's so funny. Even to our viewers, like, we definitely multitask. We love doing this podcast, but we also have lives and businesses outside of the podcast. So sometimes, if we're doing stuff. I was even, when I was texting, handling some very important business as well just a moment ago. So we're kind of all over the place. You see, Brother Joe is on the road handling his business. So sometimes if you guys ever tune in, that's right. If you guys ever tune in and we are not actually on, that's because we have some other pressing business that we still have to take care of. But you guys definitely are our first priority, but we still have so many other things that we're juggling at the same time, doing the best that we can.
And I'm glad Jax and Brother Fatim said that. Understand, this podcast is only 6 months old, and we have been very consistent through rain, sleet, snow, and hail, through me being in the hospital. I mean, we continue to come on here because we wouldn't be who we are, and this wouldn't be what it is without you. So everyone who logs in, even those who don't completely log in, because everybody don't log in. Some people like to watch from a distance, and we understand because of the time, the 2 hours that we're in. Some of you are probably at work. Some of you are in a position where you really can't let folks know that you logged in, and we completely understand that. But click like and share. Today we are broadcasting live on Facebook. We're on YouTube, and we're on Instagram, and we often put out there our own personal pages. Follow us because we're here to get you engaged, informed, and inspired. Just like Sister Monet said, we want you to get registered. We want you to get engaged, get involved, get the information, and go vote. And not only you go vote, but tell a friend to tell a friend to take a friend and go vote. Because we have to put as many of us out there that is giving the good news. And once again, it's not about a policy or a person. It's not about politics or a person. It is purely about the policies. And like I said, the challenge is still there. If you are a Trumpian and you believe that Trump is the answer, give me 5 policies that Trump has put in place that was good for Black and brown folks. I'm still waiting. This is day 2 of the challenge. Give me the 5 policies that Trump has put together that was good for us. And I don't see it. Right now, everybody's talking about, everybody's got on their page, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. But Miss Massey, once again, the only person who has reached out for this lady and her family, the president has, and the VP has reached out. Where is this? Where is President Trump? Where is Vance? Where's the VP? Where is his VP pick? Have they called? Have they called and checked and said, hey, we're appalled by this? Come on, family. We got to pay attention. It's time to wake up. It's not time to be asleep. It's time to wake up, because what you do today matters tomorrow. What you do today matters tomorrow.
I want to and that's so important, Joe. I want to put this out here real quick. So Douglas Guidry writes, more immigrants crossing the border as we speak, and he got one of them faces like that. So I'll put that to bed. Remember, there was bipartisan legislation passed, but your guy, Donald Trump, sent a message to the Republicans not to vote for that legislation. So that's egg on your face. So that's enough of that on that. I want to read this here because I said this to you, Jax, and someone else said it just now. And I want Jewel Wall said, appreciate your distinguished guest expertise on this panel. So I just, again, great guest, and I'm glad it was a young sister, a millennium, because a lot of times we talk about the bad and some of the bad choices, not mistakes, bad choices that sometimes we can level them up to mistakes with young folks, but we also see that there's a lot of good folks out there that are doing the work and they are young. But there was something that, and Sister Darlene Bryant, thank you, my sister, thank you. She had written something earlier, and we got into a little discussion here on this, is, the school system should not teach your children about life. So I came back and said, Sister Darlene Bryant, I don't have a problem with the school system teaching our children about life, because some parents don't teach their children, and we have to make sure that they have some knowledge about life, because my parents didn't have that conversation with me. So some of the things that I did or didn't do or misconstrued, I could have got myself in a jam. I'm telling you, because my parents they didn't talk with me, did not talk with me. I remember getting busted at when I was 18, 17, 18. I was in college and I had a young lady in my room. We were fully clothed, but I was just leaning on top of her, you know. And my mother, whatever, you know. So my mother, no, I really wasn't doing that part, you know, but just being young. And my mother, I usually can hear my mother come up the hallway, but this night I heard that one step before she could look in my room. Too late. She saw that. We're fully clothed. So first, my mother was kind of embarrassed at first. But remember, that's my mother. So she poked her head out. Then she probably realized, wait a minute, damn it, this is my apartment. So she poked her head back in. What are y'all doing? Take that girl home. So I had to do, of course, I'm not going to defy my mother. I took the girl home. So when I came back in the door, I tried to go in my room. My mother, come here, and it's damn near 2:00 in the damn morning. So I go in there, and she was like, she didn't give me the long lecture. I'm gonna have your father talk to you at 18. At 18, I left sex books around when I was 13. You didn't have a damn talk with me. Yeah. When I came in the house and lied about I got this tar on my pants because I was up on the roof, you didn't talk to me. So at 18, because you see me on top of a girl and I'm already in college, you're going to have my father talk to me? So I waited 2 days. My father ain't doing nothing. He ain't talking to me. So I got frustrated because I'm like, when am I going to get this damn talk? I'm like, am I in trouble with it? So I said, Dad, you got to talk to me about something? Talk to you about what? I'm good, Dad. No problem. No problem. So what I'm saying is, and Sister Darlene came back and responded to me and said, you all right, Brother Fatim. I want to take a look at, that when is it, and you mentioned it, Jax, but I want to kind of dive deep into this a little bit for a moment, is when do we have these kind of conversations about these kind of things in life? It's not just only about sex. It's what comes with sex. It's not only pregnancies, there's STDs.
Yeah.
There are STDs that what they say is like luggage. They stick with you for the rest of your life, or they can take you out, or you have to take medicine for the rest of your life. You understand? There are drugs out there. You got to realize that a lot of parents are on pain meds, and their kids sneak and take the pain meds. And then when the parents find out, they yell at them, they hide the pain meds, but they are addicted to this. That when they go through a withdrawal, they don't want to go through a withdrawal. They still want to feel that high. So what they do, they go out in the street and get it. It can be laced with fentanyl. It can be laced with so many other illicit type drugs that kill you and keep you hooked. So when do you have these kind of conversations? And when do you, as parents, start to realize that you need to, as young folks, you need to go to school. You need to study. You can't be ignorant and have children, because anybody can have a child, stick their little so-and-so into something, and boom, spark, as you say, that spark. Yeah. And then a child is born and your ass is a dumbass and you can't even have a conversation. I'm dead serious. This time I have to speak to these folks today, because you're a dumbass and you can't have a conversation with your children because you're not knowledgeable.
That's right.
And then you leave it to the system to do it. And then if the system doesn't do it right, and then your kid comes out bad. So how do we deal with this? How do we become better parents? Because we're up against this today. We're up against these computers that are in the back pocket. These are computers, y'all.
Yeah.
So how do we deal with this? I want to hear from folks in the chat. We talk politics, we talk Kamala Harris, we talk voting, but let's talk a little bit about life now. And how do we become better as adults dealing with life? And how do we teach our children to become better with life?
Yeah. And you know what? It's so scary, because when I do my workshops and when I do the series on sex education with these young men and women, it is so appalling that somebody's kid is out of the house at 16, 17, 18 years old and ask the questions that they ask and just do not know. So it's clearly the parents are not having those conversations with them. And sometimes, they be just parents are just ass backwards, and sometimes they just don't know. That's why they keep on ending up in many situations that they do, and they just pass down the misinformation and the lack of knowledge onto their children. But if you guys hear some of the questions or the statements that these kids make that they think are 100% valid and is a protective measure, they are so clueless, and it's appalling, it's heartbreaking, and it really makes you understand why society is the way it is, because these children, they do not know, and you could tell their parents show as hell don't know, although they out there dropping it like it's hot and got their Gucci bag and their little red bottoms and all the snap, but they still dumb as a damn doorknob, you know. So it's still so unfortunate. And like you said, Fatine, all it takes is a brother to stick his PP up in somebody, and once that spark occurs, a whole life, look, Casey said dry humping, and the whole life comes out of it, and then they don't know what to do next. And then you got people who will have multiple babies at the same age because they humping on everybody at the same time, you know, and they got 4 different chicks all giving birth to a kid, you know, kids at the same time. You know, so we have to do better because these diseases are real. For me personally, thank you, Jesus, I'm married, but I don't give a damn what they say. I know they have that medication out there now that when you take it, you could test like negative for HIV, like your levels will be undetectable. Right. I don't even trust nothing like that. You know, if I met some dude, if I was in the world and met some dude and he's like, oh yeah, well, I took my medication, I'm not detectable. I still wouldn't be having intercourse with him, or let alone unprotected. Just because today he said, you know, I went to the doctor on Friday, they said I'm undetectable. Well, guess what? If you ain't take your medicine Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and I sleep with you on Tuesday, maybe your levels are off. So now you are detectable and can transfer.
Yeah. I wanted Jax to read that comment, Joe. Please, let's put that back up. Jax, read that comment, please.
I have daughters and was open with them. My youngest gets embarrassed because I sugarcoat, I guess, anything. My mother was raw and to the point when it came to my sisters and I.
Basically saying she didn't sugarcoat anything. She was straight to the point because we don't have time to play games now. We just don't have time to play games. I can't tell what you can go and do in your house, and you have to also assess your child. But, you know, I'll be honest with you. Hanifa taught me something that I didn't know. She said that there are some kids that deal with the spectrum autism.
Yeah.
And she said, if you notice a lot, not all autistic children, they get in tune with their feelings, their desires. And she said, exactly. So they become more hypersexual. So you feel like I can't have a conversation with them. But if they got in the wrong setting and went through that feeling, somebody's going to get pregnant. So that's why I'm saying that even there, you got to realize that there is a level of conversation and teaching folks. I'm telling you, I've had this conversation with somebody. I'm not going to name their name, but it was an adult. And it was like, oh, I'm not having this conversation. I'm not having this conversation with my child because I told him, no, you know, you don't have sex. So I'm not having this conversation. You shouldn't be doing that. I said to you, you know, and I said what I said. I said, that is one of the most dumbest things that I've ever heard.
Yeah, yeah. And
when are you going to be a parent to your child just to say don't do something and don't have a conversation or not open the door where they can come to you when they have questions? Isn't that what it's supposed to be about? That you want your child to come to you where you're supposed to be the most trusted individual. If they don't come to you and don't feel comfortable to come to you, they're going to go to somebody else.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, even what I just mentioned to Sister Monet, you know, into the panel about abortion, right? It feels uncomfortable or sounds uncomfortable, but when you think about it, no matter what side of the fence you stand on, facts are facts. You know, abortion still is, you know, murder essentially, because guess what? If you didn't have one, a life would have manifested, you know, down the road, you know, 9-10 months later, whatever, life would have manifested. But you snuffed out that life for whatever reason. And we all know that studies show the majority of abortions are not because somebody was raped or incest. It's abortions because of people's lack of positive decision making and lack of discipline. You know, and you just want to kind of, you know, get around. So if you snuff out that life, no matter what, it's still murder. But we don't like to have those uneasy conversations. We want to sugarcoat everything and make things look, you know, nice, but it really isn't nice, you know. So we all have to be held accountable for that. You know, men included, the women included, because you have some men that tell their wives actually, or tell some their girlfriend or some chick they're messing with, oh no, you need to have an abortion, you know. So ultimately it's her body, but sometimes women, due to the pressure and the, you know, sometimes physical abuse and all that kind of stuff, say, oh my God, he's threatening me, he's going to kill me if I don't have one, because say he's married or in another relationship. So she has one, but guess what? The blood is on his hands as well, you know. So we all gotta, you know, just keep it real.
And let me just say this real quick, and I know Joe want to jump back in here, is that, you know, a lot of folks, and I've heard this from my friend, his brother, I ain't gonna say his last name, but brother Darius, he brought up in the church, and he said, Fatih, when the parents was upstairs and they always send the kids downstairs.
Yeah.
And then you got to realize a lot of us experimented on family members. What am I saying? When I use the word experimented as kids, you go to your cousin's house and the parents here and the kids in the back room, they playing doctor. They experimenting. So that's why I'm saying you better start listening. You better get it together, because you think you put your children in a certain environment that they're safe. Our minds, I'm telling you, my mind in second and third grade was off the chain. Inquisitive. I was inquisitive.
Yeah.
I was curious about certain things. You understand what I'm saying? So you better wake up. Oh, they were their cousins in the back room. Okay.
Yeah, they sure are.
Okay, you asked the first person they dry humped on.
Yeah, exactly. I was telling my daughter the other day. Yeah, exactly. I was telling my daughter the other day, I must have been maybe, my grandmother died, I think, when I was in the third grade. So I must have been in the second grade. So I guess that's maybe around 7 years old or so. And I'll never forget, at my grandmother's house, you know, like I said, I had brothers, cousins that weren't real cousins, but they was like cousins because our families were close, and, you know, kids in the neighborhood would all, you know, come by. And I remember one cousin, it was me, I was 7. My cousin, I won't say her name, but she was probably about maybe 6 or 5 or whatever. So the teenager, who must have been, I don't know, maybe 17 years old, 16 at the time, tried to get one of us or both of us to perform oral sex on him. What do I know about that at that age, right? So he's trying to convince us, oh, you just do it like a lollipop, and then when you're done, I'll give y'all some candy. So, you know, who's going to do it? I'm looking like, hell no. So I remember hiding on the steps, and my cousin went into the room with the boy, and she did it, you know, and she's 5 or 6 years old, did that to this teenager, knew nothing about that, but she did that. And when she came out, she was like this, and she was like kind of scared walking towards me. And I'm like, oh my God, like what just happened? We never told. I mean, I don't know if she ever told as an adult, but I never said anything to this day, you know. But it's still unfortunate that, like you said, Fatine, it'd be the cousins, the brothers, the uncles, it'd be the girls too. You know, it's some of the teenage girls that will still act out on the little boys as well. So it definitely or the crackhead aunties, you know what I'm saying? Or just an auntie in general. So it happens across the board. So we really have to be careful. For me, I didn't let my kids spend the night all everywhere growing up, because I know what could happen, you know? So our family is very tight knit. My kids were with me, feel like more than any other kid in the world. But my kids, I could probably count on one hand how many times they spent the night outside of our home. And it might be my mom's house, maybe my dad's house, maybe my brother a couple of times. But otherwise, Olivia probably had maybe one sleepover with a friend, maybe twice, you know, her whole life. Like I didn't play all of that. Now the kids could come to our house. I knew what was going on in this house. But yeah, so we just have to be careful. We just have to be careful, y'all.
You do have to be careful, and you have to understand that childhood trauma turns into adult drama. And many a time, because of things that have occurred in our childhood that we don't want to talk about, that comes back on us as adults. That's why we do certain things with our children, because we know what occurred to us as children that we did not discuss. You know, and at the end of the day, once again, I hate to say this, this is where we have to be very cognizant of what's going on and have a clear understanding and have conversations. See, the biggest thing, and I say this the best way I can, the biggest problem is that a lot of us are scared to talk to our children about stuff we need to be talking to our children about. And we want to pass the buck to somebody else to talk to them. You want the schools to raise them. You want their phones to raise them. You want everybody to raise them except yourself. And then when they come out a certain way, then you get upset with society when society begins to impose certain penalties on them because they're really off the chain because you decided not to be a parent and you wanted to be their friend. You know, and I say that all the time, and you know, people get mad at me. Well, you can't be their friend. Oh, I can be their friend, but first I am your parent. I'm your parent.
That's right.
I am the individual. I am your parent. It is my obligation to raise you and prepare you for this thing called life, that you do better in life than I am doing. And it's sometimes not going to be easy, because sometimes I'm going to impose some things on you that I know that's best for you. Though at the moment you feel like, oh, they're just being mean. They're not wanting me to do everything. I know what you do now matters later. What you do now matters later. You may not see it, but you getting out there doing that one little thing with your homegirl or your homeboy, shoplifting for fun or whatever, that can prevent you from getting to the college you need to get to. That can prevent your destiny from being fulfilled. We've got to be parents. We've got to be parents. That's all I got to say about that.
That's right. You know, Joe, even with my daughter, I mean, she's about to be 18 in a couple of months, and she's only like 92 pounds. So even, you know, her entire life, she'd be like, oh, mommy, you're my best friend. I'm like, sorry. No, I'm not. I'm like, I don't need any 30-pound friends. And then when she was 50 pounds, I don't need no 50-pound friends. I don't need those 60-pound friends. I don't need any little friends. Like I am your parent. Being your friend is a downgrade. So of course, you know, you have to have a certain level of trust and respect and, you know, empathy and concern and love, you know, for your child, but and a certain level of friendship to a degree, but they're not your friend. You know, and we've talked about this before. Like that is one of the biggest misnomers that, you know, we put out there. Like I always say, God didn't allow you to give birth to your friend. He allowed you to give birth to your child. You know, your friends don't share your DNA like that, you know, so not the same type of DNA as your child would. So we just have to, you know, be okay with that. Now, when my daughter is older, yes, we could explore a different level of parenting and of our relationship and my son. And we could develop a friendship on a different level. But no matter what, I will still be your mother. Your friend is not going to pay for you to go to college. Your friend is not paying your car insurance. Your friend is not doing all these things that a mom can do, you know, or a dad can do for that matter. So, you know, we just have to play our position and not be so thirsty as a mom or a dad to have your child as your friend. Like I see grown women on social media like, oh, I'm with my little best friend. And the kid is 3 years old. No, she shouldn't be a little damn best friend. Go find some grown women best friends, you know? So, you know, and that, you know, you have these ladies dressing these little girls, even like little grown best friends with belly shirts and biker shorts and, you know, all this type of inappropriate, you know, apparel that's not even teaching these little girls how to be like little girls, or not even teaching these little girls how to be a modest, ladylike, you know, little girl. So it's a mess. So we definitely have to do better. Definitely have to do better.
All right.
It is 5 minutes to the top of the hour. Family, it has been an outstanding show. The Road Show is in full effect. We are so happy that you have tuned in. Big ups to Monet Holden for our special guest coming on, emphasizing to everybody that your vote is your voice and your voice has power. So get engaged, get involved, get registered, and go vote. Let's get some closing comments. I'm going to start with my sister Jax. Sister Jax, give it to me.
Yes, great show. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We love you. If nobody told you today they love you guys, just know that Jax truly and sincerely loves you. Whether I saw your face, touch you, held your body before, just know that Jax, my spirit, goes out to your spirit, and I love you. Let's all do the right thing and stay prayed up and stay focused as we prepare for yet another day. Be blessed and be safe. See you tomorrow, Lord's will. Peace out.
Brother Fatim, give it to me, man. What we doing?
All right. So, you know, we talked about a lot of things today. And again, I'm looking here because I'm trying to figure out what was I going to put out today for my closing words. So I say, remember her name, Sonia Massey. And there's two upcoming rallies for her. The first one is the National Day of Mourning for Sonia Massey. This is going to take place this coming Sunday, July 28th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time in New York City in Washington Square Park. It says more cities to be announced, but I don't have those cities as of yet. But I expect this to expand. I need to reach out to Tamika Mallory and other folks as well. And then on Tuesday night in Chicago, at the new Mount Pilgrim Missionary Baptist Church, 4301 West Washington Boulevard, Senior Pastor Reverend Dr. Marshall E. Hatch. Again, I spoke with him last night, 6 p.m. Central Time. There will be a rally with and for the Sonia Massey's family, the father, the sons, and the rest of the family. Come out if you can to support them. I will be in Chicago. Reverend Sharpton will be in Chicago. Attorney Ben Crump has been in Chicago. So we will all be there to support the family. Stand up, remember her name, and remember, we got to vote, but there was a lot of other things that you need to be involved in. Keep your mind straight and keep your ears to the ground to know what's going on. All right?
That was it, man. That was it. I very much appreciate that. Let me go ahead and close out like I always do. Listen, family, be better today than you were yesterday. Do something today that you can bless somebody in some way, some shape, some form, some fashion, that there's no earthly way that they can pay you back. And always remember the following, that there is no secret, absolutely no secret, what God can do. What he has done for others, he will and he can do for you. For when God is with you, nothing or no one can stand against you. We'll be back tomorrow. It will be Freedom and Fun Friday. The road show continue. I'll be back live in studio. Tell a friend to tell a friend. We'll have the phone lines back up. We're going to have everything flowing and going like we usually do. Have a wonderful and blessed day. God's willing, we'll see you tomorrow. Be blessed. We out of here. Peace.